right, Aftershocks TV, Matt here with you guys for another episode where we feature some of the best underground hard rock and metal bands on the globe. And today we're pleased to have with us from Stoner Metal Stalwarts, High Reeper, we've got guitarist Shane Trimble joining us. Shane, thanks for coming on Aftershocks. How are you, man?
Great. How are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, man. I mean, I'm a big fan of the band, so this is definitely appreciate you coming on. It's to talk some High Reeper. I know you guys. Let's start things off here. I know you guys just finished playing two major festivals right here in the U.S. I started off a few weeks back, at Desertfest, New York City, and also more recently, you just played the Heavy Psych Sounds Fest.
We didn't
out here, and
we couldn't.
You didn't play. Oh, what happened, man?
Well, first of all, our bass player, he had open heart surgery from a congenital heart problem. So we've had we have to play. Actually, his roommate played at Desert Fest with us, and then for HPS Fest for the West Coast, we could not get it happening. So we just couldn't. Man. At the end, we couldn't do it. It was by the time we thought we would be able to do it, it was literally like 2 weeks before the show, and tickets were a fortune to go out there, and it just didn't even make sense. And so it fell apart. It was terrible.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, at least you got to play the Desert Fest, man.
Yeah.
Crazy
and
lineup.
By the way, just for the record, Tyler, our bass player, is okay, and he's just recovering slowly. So he's not really. He could do a gig maybe where he sits down and plays the bass but a full on metal show. He's not there yet, but he's coming along.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear. He's okay and he's gonna be fine. That's great to hear, man. But let's talk about the Desert Fest. I mean, you guys I know played the one in London previously, correct?
Yes, we've played, and now after playing Desert Fest in New York, we've actually played every Desert Fest. There used to be a Desert Fest Athens, but that was before we were a band. So we played Desert Fest Belgium, which is in Antwerp. They have been having another one in Ghent recently, also in Belgium, but we played Desert Fest Belgium, Desert Fest Berlin, and Desert Fest London, and then now Desert Fest New York. So we are 4 for 4.
Nice, man. Well, I mean, the cool thing is this is probably the biggest, I would say, festival, this Desert Fest, that for this type of music, I think pretty much ever, I think, here in the States.
For sure. In the States, right? Yes, it is. For sure. And it's great. The venue was really cool. It's a Knockdown Center in Queens. I've never even heard of the venue, to be honest. And it was real. It was cool. It was a good show. It was a really good lineup. Post-COVID, it was really nice to see a lineup that good. So I thought we had a great time.
Fantastic. Well, just quickly, I mean, I did see a clip of you guys perform, and it was when I was watching, it was pretty hard to watch, your vocalist Zach and not fear that he was going to hit that pole or that column that was there in the middle of the stage, man. I mean, was he able to stay clear of that thing the whole show?
Yeah,
because that was kind of,
but it was insane. I just shook my head and stood over in my area and just watched. But no, he was fine. It was fine.
Yeah. Because it's got to be kind of difficult a little bit, when you're trying to rock out like that, to have to keep that in the back of your mind. You got
no kidding, for sure.
But
I just stand in one place personally, so I don't have to get involved in that shit.
Nice, man. Well, I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just great to see these big festivals, I think, for this kind of music that are here finally in the States, like I was saying. I mean, I know for years we've heard about, they're obviously they take place in Europe all the time. So it's just great to see that this type of hard rock and metal continues to grow here in the States. And speaking of growing, I mean, for you guys, for High Reeper, I mean, you guys now really are part of, I would say this upper echelon of these future torch carriers, if you call it that, for the genre.
Thank you.
I mean, considering you guys are, being invited and being a part of all these insane lineups. I mean, and what's I think even more impressive is that you guys have done it really quickly. I mean, you consider you only released your first full length just over 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, how good does that feel, or to know that you're now within those group of all those great bands that you got to play with?
It's surreal. I mean, just from what the band was born out of to where it is. It's something that we didn't even, it wasn't even in our minds. So
okay,
it's crazy. It's to see it happening, or to be, to be in it while it's happening is it's it's really something else.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it must be, man. And you guys, like I said, you're definitely a band on the rise. Now, does that also at the same time put maybe any pressure on you guys, knowing that you're now looked up to in that same echelon, or are you just kind of going and doing what you do and just going
Nah,
it?
it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice thing to be thought of in that way, but
Mm-hmm.
nah, there's no pressure in any way. I mean, we just go out and we play a show, or when we're writing a record, we just write the best record we can. And
Mm-hmm.
whether we thought it was going to sell 1,000,000 or 1 copies, it doesn't really change how we approach writing, or
Okay.
whether we're playing to 10 people or 10,000 wouldn't make a difference.
Sure. No,
And that's our approach, at least.
mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's a good
Hope
approach because
that's
it seems to be
okay.
working. Yeah, it's working well for you guys. So of course it is. Well, yeah, let's talk about last year's the Doom Sessions release that you
Okay.
guys split with Hippie Death Cult.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool about that record, or the songs I should say on that record, you obviously, the band I think has definitely become a bit more metallic than than you guys were on your first 2 links.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of that I would assume has to do with you switching over from bass to guitar. That I saw as well. I mean, the noticeable difference, like I said, in the sound is that there's more fuzz and distortion in the rhythm guitar sound, and it gives it more of that metallic crunch than what had been on the earlier records. So, I mean, first off, I guess, how did that transition work out initially? I'd say, I guess for you, was it strange switching instruments after you guys already had a sound and style and chemistry that was successful,
Okay.
early on?
I'm going to answer all these things. Let me see.
Oh, all right.
I want to try and I had a pen. Shit. Anyway, because I want to try and make sure I say all of this correctly. Okay. First of all, we started initially pre-COVID. We were just going to do an EP before our next tour, because our label boss is like, hey, why don't you guys do an EP or a live album, just so that next time you come to Europe, you have something to promote. He's like, I don't care what it is. It can be an EP. It can be a live album. He's like, I would prefer if you went on the road with something new to give people a reason to see you. We said, yeah, sure. Okay. So this was right after our last tour, which would have ended. It was October of whatever year that was, right before COVID. It was with Crip Trip in Europe, and so I don't know if that's 2019 or 2020. 2019. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we just went. So maybe a couple months after that, we just wrote. It was like 5 songs. But we had to do this cover of Changes by Black Sabbath for this Volume 4 tribute record.
Okay.
And that song is in C. And I was like, fuck, let's tune down the C standard. So we tuned down the C standard, because normally we were just tuned down to E flat. So we tuned down to C standard. And then Pat and I started writing these, like, I always, the first record I wrote most of, period, on guitar. I'm a guitar player. And then about 15 years ago, with our old guitar player, Andrew, he had more of like a Kings of Leon style band. And I was like helping him produce it and stuff. And so I just, for kicks, started playing bass more seriously as my instrument. So, and with our first record, we had a different drummer. In Reeper, we had a different drummer. So, and that record was kind of born out of, I just kind of not really been playing music for about 6 months. And I was like, man, I just want to write like some kind of like old school metal, like Sabbath sounding record, with no intention of it even being put out. And I had talked to Andrew to sing, actually. And he said, nah, I don't want to sing, get Zach. And then our old drummer Naps, I just said, hey, why don't you do this? And I'll play bass. And originally I was going to approach our drummer now, Justin. But since I just stopped playing with Naps, I was just like, why don't you just do this? And then we got Pat. to play guitar. We did, of course, get Zach to sing, but I wrote most of the record just because it was something that I had imagined in my mind. And then, so after the first tour, Naps left. Then I said, hey, Justin, you know, he came in and started playing with us. And Justin and I are both older than the rest of the band. I'm 50. Justin's going to be 40. He'll be 46 in October. Okay. So Justin and I grew up, we were metalheads. I had old cousins in the 70s and shit who I grew up, you know, listening to metal. And so just with the addition of Justin, and after, we'll just cut out the getting a record deal story for now. But after having gotten a record deal, and then we're like, oh shit, we got to make another record. You know, it was just a really natural evolution. Even just moving on from the first to the second record, the difference in those two records, just adding Justin to the band because he, like, just like me, we both grew up listening to metal. We could communicate with that vocabulary, you know, with, hey, you know, this song, you know, whatever Stand Up and Shout idea, you know, and Stand Up and Shout when, you know, they do this or that or whatever, you know, and we, you know, all that kind of bullshit. Sure. And so that just changed that a little bit. And then, but on the second record, Pat wrote a lot. Me, Pat, and Justin wrote that together.
Okay.
That was very much like, whereas the first record, Pat ended up writing a couple songs on it, but it was just, it was almost kind of, it was just like, I had a bunch of ideas, we got together and we got it done. But the second record, we were doing it intentionally. And it's like me, Justin, and Pat here in my house, in my studio. And then we would just hash out ideas. But again, just adding Justin and him being like a veteran metal drummer, it changed things a little bit that way. And then we had to do the Sabbath cover of Changes, and then we did that and we started tuning the C standard. And like I said, I had always been playing guitar, but I wasn't a guitar player anymore, so it was really kind of fucked up. So even on those songs on, like, I mean, I was doing solos and I had played solos on earlier records, but I wasn't really, I mean they're not, I went back and restudied guitar after we did that record because I was just, after we did the EP. But anyway, because once I started getting back, being like, oh shit, I guess I'm going to actually play guitar like for real. Then I just started studying guitar again and becoming, you know, the guitar player, a guitar player again, you know, because I was really, I mean, I was playing guitar to write songs and I would play a solo here and there. But I mean, as like being an actual musician, like a real guitar player, I wasn't one anymore. And I had to really kind of, I took lessons and got back to studying and stuff like that.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. So, I mean, how's that been now for you? I mean, is it, or just a band in general in terms of maybe I don't want to say the chemistry, but maybe just the, I guess just how you guys kind of write together. Are things kind of the same way now? Like you said, you guys started,
everything's the same. Because Pat and Justin and I, we have a groove of writing together, and we've been writing for a new record recently. Tyler, we wanted Tyler to be involved, but with him, he's not. That's our new bass player, but he's not really able to at the moment. So it's just us three, but we have a good dynamic. We know what's going on. Like between each other, it's very easy to communicate. And when we started, it was just a natural progression of the first to the second album. And then when we started tuning down, and Justin and I just going even more towards classic metal that we grew up with. And Pat is Pat is right on board with it and gets it. And if I'm saying, hey man, I'm going for some kind of like Priest part here, I'm going to some kind of galloping Iron Maiden part here or whatever, or if I like, hey, let's think of like a thrash part on like Ride the Lightning or something, but let's just do it over a halftime drum beat, but think of the riff as something like that, it's that kind of stuff. It's real easy. So it's just, but we all use those, especially Justin and I use those things as references. And it's really easy to communicate in that way. But it's just, like I said, it's just a real natural progression. And I guess maybe one difference is now I'm when I'm writing, I'm thinking of like, all right, I'm going to be playing this. What do I want to do here? You know, like rather than like, I'm not, and rather like, all right, we got this guitar idea. This is good enough. I'll move on to the next one and think about what I have to play on bass, because I'm not thinking about that anymore, because I haven't played bass in years now, 3 years or something.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Do you think by easing, like, by releasing those 3 tracks, doing those songs on the Doom sessions, by easing into it a little bit and just kind of, getting your feet wet again, playing guitar, do you think that really, I would say, I guess, gave you guys as a band maybe that certainty that, okay, yeah, this is what we're looking for sonically, and this is going to work, going forward, compared to obviously, what you'd done the first record and so forth?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, we thought of it in that way. I mean, like I said, we were supposed to release a whole EP to have something so we could tour, but then that tour got canceled. And then after that, he was like, hey, you want to just do a Doom session? He's like, use the shit that you did for the EP. I was like, oh, that'll be great. And I was going to recut the solos because I had already started studying again, and I was practicing a lot, and I was way better, and I got kind of into shredding and shit. But I didn't. I just said, fuck it, man. I'll just let him ride. That's how I recorded it. I don't really give a fuck. So that's what we did. But yeah, yeah, we did think of it as that, like, okay, well, our sound is changing a little bit. Let's see what goes on here. And, this will be a good, like, kind of a good litmus test or something.
Sure. No, absolutely, man. Well, like I said, it definitely works in my ears, man. And speaking of that, there's 2 things to me, I mean, that really stand out, I think, about, High Reaper, you guys, is in terms of what you bring to the table, that I feel really, it makes you stand out from the rest of your musical peers, is the fact that it really is the guitar tone is something that you guys have. It's really unique.
Thank you.
Obviously it's got, it's got the fuzz, it's got the distortion, the crunch and to the rhythm. And like I said, because it does make you guys more of a metal band compared to, a lot of the other bands in the genre. I mean, you guys have almost like a new wave of British heavy metal, like you said, classic metal, really angled to your guys' sound. Whereas, a lot of the other bands, in the genre, obviously there's a lot taken from the 70s and Sabbath, but it usually stays around that realm. It's got really more of a sludgy, more muddled, more lower bottom kind of sound. Well, you guys, it's just really that crisp, classic metal sound. I mean, what's your guys' approach with musically? Is this just the way you write, or do you guys purposely really try to, get those elements in there so that, since those are your influences, like you said, you come from a strong metal background?
Yeah, they just kind of come out. I mean, it's nothing is ever really contrived. We just really, I mean, literally, our writing sessions are like, I usually like to write with a drummer. I will have riffs. I mean, but I really like having a riff or having guitar in my hand and being able to get feedback from Justin, like musical feedback, not actually talking, but like say, like, I'll, play something and he'll react to it and it'll make me play something else. Pat will write. He's more diligent about like writing riffs at home coming into rehearsal. I like to be more spontaneous with it, or mostly. But yeah, just kind of basically it's like, and really fast self-editing. Pat comes in, he plays something. I don't like it. I say, play another thing, Pat. He said, oh, it's good. I say, all right, cool. Well, that's our A part. And then I say, boom, and I play a B part. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that sucks. And then I just write it, and Justin's still playing, write a new one. Oh, here's a B part. Oh, this one's good. All right, that's our B part. But it's like really like that. But and we don't like we don't agonize too much over like, hey, what is, and then we get the kind of a basic structure, and then we'll go back and say, oh, let's get these transitions tight, or hey, maybe in the second time we come back to this B part, let's add this or that to it. But and as far as the sound goes, like with the guitars and stuff, it's really just it's, I mean, I mix this, I record and mix the records. It's just what I like in my brain for this. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not like it's nothing like, I don't know. It's just the way I hear it, I guess.
Yeah, no, like I said, I just really like the way it's, like I said, it's not like I said, it just has that real high, end to the guitar where, like I said, a lot of the stoner and doom bands, it's just sort of more mixed in with the low end and
Yeah,
with
I
the
don't really
bass
go
and
for
stuff.
that shit.
Yeah, I
That's
could,
just
yeah.
not my flow. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's cool. I mean, it's for me, that's a sound that it's cool when other people do it. But for me, I don't really get down with that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and the other thing too that I want to mention that stands out about you guys is really, you guys know how to really write these super catchy hooks that you can ride on for like a few minutes. For example, like that ride out riff on Devil's Grip, literally, I mean, it does just that. I mean, it really grips you as a listener. And it's easy to dial into it, right along with it. And it's addictive, man. It's a kind of hook you don't want it to end. You know what I mean?
Well,
When you're throws to listen to it. Yeah.
Well, if you study like songwriting and stuff, which I mean, I study that stuff a lot with a teacher.
Okay.
Like, well, in metal, the riffs are the hooks. In like pop writing, when you're writing like an ELO song or something, it's the melody and that kind of shit. And how are you weaving this melody over these chord changes and key changes sometimes? But in it's not that complicated in metal. You just get something that's like rhythmic, and there you got it. But that also comes. I also grew up playing and listening to R&B and stuff, so that has always informed my my rhythmic sensibility. And sometimes it really annoys me because I hear it and I'm just like, that's just my typical bullshit like R&B stuff, like mixed in metal, like. But I guess I guess it's okay in the end. It's okay.
Oh, it is. I mean, well, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, how do you know too? Like, on Die Slow too, it's another one that has that really addictive hook towards the end as well.
That is Pat's riff. Die
Okay.
Slow. Let's say I got to think. Let's say that's Pat's riff, and the chorus was Andrew's riff. That was all I wrote in that song was the bass solo.
Well, I mean, my question, I guess, is too, how long do you know to ride those riffs without maybe, making it too little or too much? You know what I mean? Because it seems like it's almost perfect the way you have them like about 1.5 to 2 minutes. And it's perfect because, like I said, when the song's done, you want to listen to it again.
That's the thing. Well, you just know. Yeah. It's just that, we all decide we're doing it. We're like, all right, yeah, we're going to do this for 4 bars. We're going to do this, whatever. And sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. It really depends. You could have the riff stay the same and the drums change, and that enables you to play that riff longer. Or you can, I don't know why, each time is different, and we just do it by whatever feels right. And exactly what you said. I mean, even as players, as the people playing it, we want that same feeling you have. When it's over, I'm like, shit, man, I wish that went longer, like,
sure.
And that's good because, and when you feel that way, you have to say, okay, it definitely should not be longer then. That's how you have to know, so you have to know, like, oh, fuck, I wish that went on longer. And that when you have that feeling, there's no way in hell you need to extend that in any way. Because if you extend it, then it loses that,
It can lose and get stale. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, no doubt. Well, one of the things I want to bring up too about High Reeper is that you guys, it's where you guys are from, the state of Delaware.
Yeah.
Which is cool because I think the only artist I've ever known from there is George Thorogood.
George Thorogood,
right? Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, is there any other bands?
Yeah, I think there was. Give me 1 second. There was a band called the Spinto Band or Spinko or some shit like that. They were from Delaware. I mean, fuck, man, I'm gonna get killed for this because there actually are other. This is my bedtime, by the way, so I have an excuse of why I can't remember any of this shit. No, there actually are other people from here other than George Thorogood. I just can't think of any of them at the moment. It's too late in the day. But I promise you, I will furnish you with a list via email. Okay.
Okay. No, just curious because I mean, just somebody, I mean, obviously it's I've been listening to this, for years, hard rock and metal, and I just have never run across a band from a metal band from Delaware. So in my, at least in my, view, I mean, it's also pretty groundbreaking that you guys are really having the success outside of your home state. I mean, I know you guys are right up the road from Philly, and there's many bands.
Yeah, we're
Obviously, that
30
come out there.
minutes away. I mean, it's
Yeah.
that growing up here in Delaware, it's like it's a suburb of Philadelphia. You're just in the other state.
Okay.
I mean, but it is. I mean, it's really what it's like on field trips. You go to Philly in school, like I don't know.
Okay.
It's like you spend, you grow up going there your whole life, so there's no real difference to me. But we're just like a suburb of Philly. There just happens to be a state line in between us.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, other fans from Delaware, metal fans, are they like? Does that resonate with them? The fact that there is this, this band called High Reeper that's now internationally known and respected. The way you guys are.
Not so much, I don't think, because there's just not really much of a metal scene. There's not scenes. There's definitely been an ebb and flow in the Delaware music scene over the last 30 years that I've been playing in it. But for right now, I would not say that there's a strong underground, like heavy scene. In the early 90s there was, but right now there isn't really. If there is, I'm not in touch with it, which I mean is totally possible, but as to my knowledge, there isn't really a strong like underground heavy scene here right now. So everybody's cool to us about it, but it's not like if we get a show together here that it's going to like be the greatest show on earth, like if so many people come out to see. Nah, not really. I mean, that would get a decent crowd. I just mean that's not like, I mean, in the 90s it was fucking crazy here, man.
Sure.
But it's not like that now. No.
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of. A lot of places aren't the same as they were in the 90s. Unfortunately.
No, I mean, just scenes in general. Like the 90s had like real legit scenes all over the place in New York and. I mean, obviously Seattle, but Philly. I mean, all over the place, and Delaware was no exception. I mean, there was like, Spindrift, who is like, they're an underground band from LA. They're from Delaware. I mean, I grew up, playing with, Kilpatrick. They were like a psych band at that time. And also there was another band, Zen Gorilla. They were a very popular band. They were on Sub Pop. They were fucking killer band. Yeah, so back then in the 90s, there was, Spindrift didn't actually gain popularity till like the 2000s, but Zen Gorilla sure did in the late 90s, and they were fucking killer. They moved to San Francisco eventually, but there was some cool shit going down and around here in the 90s.
Oh, very cool, nice, man. Well, let's get to you mentioned something before about new music. What's going on now with in terms of new music potentially coming out in the near future for the band?
Well, we're writing.
Okay.
We are close to having an album's worth of music. We haven't given. Normally, we write stuff and then we give it to Zach, and then we kind of get everything together, and then we'll usually when we write something, like I said, I have a studio. We write something, we'll demo it up. Give it to Zach. He gets a vocal melody together. And then we record it for real. Okay. Again, we say, okay, because there's always like a possibility that like when we write it, let's say we have a verse, chorus, completely other different part, and then another different part, and we structure it in that way. And so we record it, and then we give it to Zach, and then he demos vocals on it. And then by the time the vocals are on it, we say, oh, fuck, you know what? This part should be shorter. This part should be longer. This part should go before this. And I'll just chop it up in Pro Tools, and we can do some editing and say, oh, yeah, this does sound cooler this way, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll go and re-record it for real. And then I'll just mix it while we record. I start the mix. By the time Zach does vocals, it's mixed. It's just missing the vocals.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Yeah.
That's the workflow.
Absolutely. Well, you guys also, just speaking of live performance, you guys got a lot of stuff coming up on the horizon. I know I saw you got Heavy Psych Sounds Fest in Germany. It's coming in October. I think I saw you have a European tour, I think, coming up with Hippie Death Cult as well in Europe. And there's also the Into the Void Festival in the Netherlands in October as well. So full 2022 is going to be busy as hell for you guys, man.
Yeah,
Talk about
we have a very there's other festival there are other festivals that I'm not allowed to give up the goods on yet. So but yeah, it'll be it's a packed tour for sure.
Very cool.
At least 6 festivals in less than 30 days. Yeah.
Wow.
Probably 26 dates, and there's I'll tell you. Yeah, it's at least 6.
6. Oh, wow. Busy. I mean, you guys are going to be super busy. That's great, obviously. So anybody, especially out in Europe, go ahead and make sure you check out High Reeper. They're going to be coming to your town, hopefully this fall, most places. So Shane, just before we wrap things up, man, where should we send the viewers and listeners to go check out the band's music, merch, tour dates, and keep up with the band in general? What's the best place?
Well, you can follow us on follow us on Spotify, because our tour dates get uploaded there, and you can always check out any and all music there. And on Instagram, normal shit like that. You can right now we have a bunch of t-shirts and shit that we have to put up on our Bandcamp that I've been delaying just because I want to have them around for gigs. But since we're not going to have too many gigs locally because of Tyler and stuff, I will probably put a shit ton of t-shirt designs that have not been for sale available ever here. So we'll be putting that up on Bandcamp sometime soon.
Bandcamp, very cool. All right, great.
And you can always also get our shit from our label, of course, at HeavyPsychSounds.com.
Oh yeah, and they have some great shit. Heavy Psych Sounds.
I work for the label, by the way, too.
Oh, you do? Oh, really?
Yeah, that's after we got signed. That wasn't like it was afterwards.
Okay.
But yeah, so please support the label. I don't care if you buy our records, just buy any records from the label, please.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the records, obviously great bands, but great merchandise, great t-shirts.
Yeah,
I have
great
so
many of those fucking shirts, man. I have so much label merch. It's ridiculous. I just wear a different label merch shirt every day.
Every day, yeah.
I sleep in I sleep in this Reaper shirt, but if this one's in the wash, I sleep in HPS shirt.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And before we wrap too, the Defender on top of you right there, that is pretty damn cool. The video game.
You can see it.
Oh yeah, you can see it. Absolutely.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's thank you very much.
Yeah, great game. I remember playing that back in the day a lot. Real lot, but awesome, man. Well, Shane, man, appreciate you coming on once again. High Reeper, go ahead and check him out on tour this fall, as well as go to their Bandcamp or go to their you said your Spotify and so forth to purchase music and so forth, and
go to our label too. You get our releases there, of course.
Sure, absolutely, great. All right, once again, High Reaper, Shane, appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks
thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Right on.
When it's time to rock, it's time to tune in to Crash Course Radio. Featuring the very best of the heavier music, from Slayer to Clutch to Fear Factory, it's all in one place, Crash Course Radio. To tune in to Crash Course Radio, simply visit www.cmsradio.net. You can also tune in on the CMS Network app by opening the app, clicking the musical notes at the top right corner, and selecting Crash Course Radio from our stations. All the best heavy music is there, so you should be too. Ditch the commercial radio and make Crash Course Radio your everyday station.